Hi, this is Rick for EDU Mobile. Now we're going to pass information to a new activity through an intent. So before we just started a new activity, now we want the second activity to get some data and display it. This is also a very simple demo. In production, you may even pass a class full or an object full of information to a new intent, or pass it to a service, let's say. But here we're just going to pass one value. But I will show you how to pass multiple values as we do this. Now, in our manifest, of course, we have declared our new activity, and it is still called detail activity. We haven't changed that. In our main activity, though, what we're doing is we have a button pressed, and I should show you the activity main XML. We have two buttons, and they are labeled 1 and 2. Now, let's go ahead and look at the design view. We can see it a little bit better if we zoom in. I can never find the zoom key. There we go. And we can see that these two buttons are labeled 1 and 2. And of course, I'm getting these from the strings resources table. I've set up two strings, 1 and 2, for the two buttons. Now, in our XML, we've declared both buttons. We've got button and button. This one is called button 1, or ID'd button 1. This one is called button 2, but I don't want to have two separate methods. I just want one callback. So onClick for both refers to something called button pressed. So let's look at that method. In that method, I'm going to sort out which button was pressed. So I get the view, and then in order to get it as a button, I want to cast the view as type button. So this is pretty easy. And then I'm going to use button get text, which gives me a car sequence, which is really an array of type car. That's not a string. So I want to convert that to a string. So now I have something called button text, which is a string. Okay, I set up a new intent because after all, I'm going to send the text on the button to the intent as an extra to bring up our detail activity. So I set up a new intent, this and then detail activity class. And then, here's the key, I use the put extra method, and put extra puts an extra into the intent, which is a key value pair. The key here is data, and then the value is the text on the button. So now, when I start activity with that intent, this extra payload is being passed. If I want to put multiple extras, I just use multiple calls to put extra, giving each value a unique key. And in the new intent, in detail activity, I can look them up using their keys. So how do we get that in detail activity? Well, first of all, I don't want to do this in onCreate because we know in onCreate the activity is not yet active. In fact, it's not even visible. The best place to grab these and do something with them is on resume. So in the detail activity, I have a layout, of course, and I have a text view, and the text on that text view is null, or it's empty. I also have an ID on the text view, and that ID is text view, confusingly enough. Okay, so now when you call one of these callback methods, you need to call through to super, of course. And now I get the text view. I just called it TV for text view, finding the view by the ID rid.textView. This is even if there were a text view with the ID text view in our original layout, we still wouldn't get confused because the content view for this guy is set to layout detail rather than activity main. So now I want to get the data back out. And the way I can do that is called get intent on this. Now we don't have to use this because it's already resolved for us. So we call get intent, and then with that information we call get string extra because the value actually is a string. It is the text off the button to string. And then remember the key was data. So I get that, and now I have the text on the button from the first activity. We have passed information from the main activity to our detail activity. And so I can set the text on my text view to that intent data. So now let's run it and make sure that it works. And we should be fine. So now we're running. And we have our two buttons, 1 and 2. I've got those from string resource tables. And now, if I click on 1, we should go to an intent, and it should display in its text view the string 1, and it does. And if I go back to my first activity, press 2, and it will display the string 2. Now, it's not two separate intents with two separate activities. The important thing is that I can use one button press handler to carry two buttons handlers, and then I can pass the data to our second intent. Thank you very much.